I run the Tenements, Tales, and Tastes tour, which is the story of the early immigrants that in large numbers came and settled in the city, and we learn their story through food.
You get to experience what I call the founding story of New York, because we're an immigrant city, and that is where all of our roots are. And it's based in this one neighborhood where all the immigrants settled, and we eat Chinese, we eat Italian.
And we learn about what these immigrants contributed and how they really made the city and the country on a larger scale the place it is.
Another tour I give is our New York Craft Cocktail Tour, which is our evening tour, which is a must-do. It's a great before you go out at night tour, 6 to 9. We go to 3 different bars.
It's specifically in the neighborhood of the East Village, which has been the booziest neighborhood in New York from the very beginning. So we talk about how that changed, how New York really helped shape the cocktail.
These are great craft cocktail bars. So the cocktails are delicious, the history is amazing, all about Prohibition, cocktails, speakeasies, and it's just a good time. That's a fun tour to take.
I do the Midtown Sights and Bites, which is really interesting because Midtown is the most touristy neighborhood in the city. It's the neighborhood that locals try to avoid at all costs. Sometimes we have to go to Midtown. So we've discovered the way to do Midtown like a local. There are secret little coffee shops that we know that you would not find unless you knew where it was. And so it's a food tour while also exploring the most touristy neighborhood. We show you the secret way of doing it.
Neighborhood Eats Brooklyn Brownstone Tour, which is kind of a favorite of mine because I actually created that tour personally. And I used to live in the neighborhood, so these are all the shops I used to go to every day. And it's just this perfect blend of old immigrant food, Italian, Middle Eastern, with the new artisanal revolution that is Brooklyn.
And with all the people moving in there today, they still practice this idea of going to the cheesemonger for your cheese, and the coffee roaster for your coffee, and the bakery for your bread. And it's a really great way to get a flavor of how Brooklyn in these specific neighborhoods have their own little communities. And we like to do it around food.
Another tour we give is our Hamilton Happy Hour Tour, which is all about New York's greatest citizen of all time, Alexander Hamilton, who's a founding father of America. Not a lot of Americans know Hamilton that well, and most foreign visitors have never heard of him, but he is a great American that is responsible for the country we have today. He's now being honored by a hit musical on Broadway, so that's bringing more people to the tour. But it's this great walking tour of the financial district. You see Wall Street, the stock exchange, and the oldest bar in the city where we stop and get a drink at the end, which is Francis's Tavern.
I also lead our Brewed in Brooklyn tour, which is all about the history of beer in New York, specifically in Brooklyn, which actually
used to be basically the Milwaukee of the East Coast. It was a brewing center, has this tremendous history of brewing, which we explore walking through Williamsburg, Brooklyn, old brewery buildings, historic neighborhoods, and then we talk about
the story of beer, which is awesome. There's no better way of learning history than with a beer in your hand.
Our brewery, winery, and distillery tour, which is for private groups, and we just take people to one of over 60 local producers in the city of either beer, wine, or spirits.
So you really learn about how different entrepreneurs are making booze in different ways, in a better way.
That is by far my favorite experience to give because it's just an amazing tour.
So only locals know where to find the best day ever in New York City.